Now let's go to global warming darling Greta Thunberg. She was giving a speech at a major climate protest in Amsterdam, but she was disrupted by an stage invader who was unhappy with the shift of focus away from environmental issues onto Palestine. Let's have a look at what happened.
We have not been listening. The people in power have not been listening.
I come here for a climate demonstration, not a political view.
Calm down. No climate justice on occupied land. No climate justice on occupied land.
We recently had in Amsterdam a climate march with more than 85,000 people on the streets. Also a lot of controversy about from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, used as a slogan. Inside such a movement that's supposed to deal with ecology and the climate justice movement. How do you feel about intersecting and connecting these struggles? Because we saw thousands of people that left the museum line when the solidarity with Palestine was a theme, and when Greta Thunberg embraced it. So I would like to know how you felt about that.
Yeah, so it was the largest mobilization for a climate march ever in the Netherlands. We had 85,000 people all mobilized in Amsterdam. And I think it was a wonderful thing. The way it was so successful was by actually having different blocks of different activists, groups that somehow aligned together. So there was a block of healthcare professionals, there was an anarchist block, there was a decolonial block, there were political parties, there were so many different groups, the trade unions were there, like the whole Climate Crisis Coalition had different NGOs and different groups come together to all join forces and march for climate and justice. It was a march for climate and justice. And then I think it is very logical that in a time where we see mass murdering happening in Gaza, where we see the genocidal language that accompanies these atrocities that are happening in Gaza, that also there is people speaking out about the atrocities in Gaza at such a march. For me personally, I do believe that there is no climate justice on occupied lands, and that is also something that Greta Thunberg was indeed repeating after the activists that were on stage. There were activists from, there was a girl, a child of war who was there to speak, and she wanted to speak broadly about different types of oppression and all the violence happening in the world, and she wanted to highlight different parts of it. But then she was told by some of the, less intersectional activists that she should not do that speech. So instead of doing that speech, she actually gave the mic to a Palestinian girl, and the Palestinian girl then started to say, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, which is a call for freedom and for losing the oppression in the whole area of Palestine, including the West Bank and Gaza. I think it makes total sense to combine those two. I do see that for a lot of people who are not as conscious, they will not see the link between the climate issue and the bombings in Gaza. They will not see the link between the injustice that climate change poses and the injustice that the colonial apartheid in Israel poses. But there is a clear link. We see that it's the same systems of oppression, it's the same systems of colonialism, where indigenous people are being threatened, whereas indigenous people have always been the best conservers of nature and the environment, are being threatened by Western imperialism. I think it makes total sense that those two topics are connected. So I'm a bit sad that it turned out to be such a controversy, but then again I also think it's good. I think it's good that we had this controversy, because at least we're now talking about it. We are now looking at what is the intersection, we are making more people aware. So first we have to have a bit of friction before we can move forward. And otherwise we would have stayed silent about the bombings in Gaza, and I think that would be way more worse.
And concerning friction, I would like you to talk about Extinction Rebellion, because in 2023, since I've been here in the Netherlands, there were 2 actions.
Yeah.
In September in The Hague, and recently in December 30 in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
And we always read in the newspapers that the police has arrested hundreds of activists, and like they are forcibly displaced from the occupied places. And what's your experience about like these direct action techniques? Do you get inspiration from the anarchist movement? From which fountains does this rebelliousness come from?
Yeah, so indeed we had those 2 actions. Well, actually in The Hague we have been doing actions already since 2022. And in the beginning of 2023 it became bigger and bigger, also because the police tried to intervene with the organizers of the actions. So what happened already in January this year was that there were over 1,000 people on the start of the highway in The Hague, the main artery of the traffic into The Hague, which is right next to the Ministry of Climate and to the temporary Chamber of Parliament. So what we did was, with Extinction Rebellion, we occupy the highway for 1 day, and we demand an end to the fossil subsidies. And these are subsidies that the Dutch government is giving to big companies that produce oil or that use fossil fuels for their business. And they get, for instance, they get massive tax exemptions. And right now I think we figured out that it's like 45 billion euros per year going into the fossil industry from the Netherlands. And that's all tax money that we could have spent on sustainable energy. So this is something that we are very angry about, and that we effectively, in a way effectively, I mean, we still have a long way to go, but we occupy the highway. In September, we decided, because they didn't listen for like a year, so we decided we will intensify the action, and we will occupy the highway every day. And this is something I found it quite ambitious as activists to say we're going to occupy the highway every day. But in a way it is effective, because you keep the attention and you keep pushing it on the agenda, and people are talking about it. There's a lot of people who don't like it. It is friction, but at least you get the topic into the center of the agenda. And this is something that in the end it was rather effective, because we did get it on the agenda of Parliament. They did adopt a motion, so we could ease down our actions. But now they didn't follow up on the motion yet. So probably the actions are going to continue in the new year. There will actually be an announcement on Friday, I believe, in The Hague, that we're going to continue the actions again. Because we know that civil disobedience is a method that has been proven throughout history to be effective into achieving change, achieving social change, achieving economical change. And this is something we have to push for and keep pushing for. And then also last week we had the action in Amsterdam on the A10, and there I wasn't there personally, but the goal there was to motivate the biggest fossil bank in the Netherlands, the ING Bank, which is the largest investor in fossil energy from the Netherlands. We asked them to stop investing in fossil infrastructure, because their investments are actually in contradiction with the Paris Climate Agreements. And if even our banks don't stick to the Paris Climate Agreements, we will all be screwed in the future. Like, if we want to have a future, we have to stop investing in fossil fuels now.
Leuke foto van mij maken als ik hier zit.
We are demanding that the ING stops financing the fossil industry that's putting us into oblivion. It's putting the earth into really dangerous territory. And we've tried to do that in so many ways. We went to their shareholder meetings. We went to their local offices. We went to their main office multiple times with hundreds of rebels, activists, and they don't engage with us. They still stick to their very polluting plans. And so we rise up for the safety for us all. The Netherlands is a low-lying country. We're threatened by ocean rise. So we want to safeguard the future for all of us.
And also, I come from Brazil, and there's an association in Brazil that has also asked the ICC to punish Bolsonaro's regime for ecocide against the Amazon rainforest and genocide against the Yanomami indigenous people, you know?
Yeah.
But we feel many citizens, I guess, in Brazil, that the ICC is either too slow or too powerless to make justice happen. What do you think? Do you believe that the ICC can do anything about the genocide in Palestine or ecocide against the Amazon rainforest, or like for climate justice, like considering major fossil fuels companies as producing like crimes against humanity, crimes against the future?
I mean, any verdict of the ICC or the ICJ, we do think that it would be good. I do think that it would be good to still use those international law institutions to prosecute criminals, international law criminals, to charge also with the genocide treaty, because it gives state actors, it gives activists another stick to hit with. And we can, like, because now when we shout here, hey, you're supporting genocide, the people that hear us can just say, no, that's not true, there's no proof of genocide. But when there is a court verdict that says that there is indeed a genocide going on, then people will have to account for their negligence, they have to account for their complacency. So this is something I think it still plays an important role. It's not a perfect solution. Like the injustice in the world will not just magically disappear if a judge calls out the injustice. But I do think that it's important to use every method we have at our disposal. So be on the streets, organize inside Parliament, outside Parliament, and also use the courts of law. Yeah. So I'm Paul Smits. I'm a member of the provincial parliament in Gelderland, which is a province in the Netherlands. And I've been involved in that political sphere for a few years now. But also I'm outside of Parliament. I'm an activist on the streets as well, because I believe that change will not come from above. Change will always come from the grassroots movements, and that's why I'm so involved in the climate movement, for instance, but also in the decolonial movement, in the human rights movement. So all those things that for me are totally interconnected and logically interconnected. I try to incorporate that in my parliamentary work, but I also try to spread the word and organize people around those topics so we can fight for a better future here in the Netherlands, but also across the globe.
Perfect. Any final remarks?
Free Palestine.